Welcome to Eat, Pray, Love, Heal, Repeat. I am your host, LETITIA LAURIEN, the social architect, and this is another space for your healing playground. We are here to talk about all of the things that lead to healing, restoration, and all that comes with being well as you learn to take your unique journey towards wholeness. This podcast is an authentic embrace, soothing realness, and conscious space to support the necessary transformation, spiritual awakening, and healing within and around you. So fall back, listen with intention, and open your heart and mind as you come into conversation with me on our continued journey to wellness. Hey y'all, this is your host, LETITIA LAURIEN, the social architect. Welcome to Eat, Pray, Love, Heal, Repeat. So, this is episode 1, The Healing Playground. So, I have a 7 and an 8-year-old, and that means I am often at playgrounds. And over time, I've seen the playground be used in many ways. It's a place where children come to laugh, collaborate, grow, create, socialize, meet new friends, and have fun. But it's also a place where we see tears, sadness, arguments, and falls. So overall, it's a place of growth. It's practically what life is all about. It's a place to run without being yelled at, to get scrapes and not care, and to imagine limitlessly. It's the perfect place for laughter, healing, and growth. And so uh, I have my 7-year-old. He is Maddox, right? And sometimes you'll hear me talking about them every now and again on the show. So Maddox is Maddox is my son, and he's such a jokester, but he's also so intelligent, and he's so good with numbers, and for me, I'm not good at numbers, and so he always it's felt like he teaches me sometime. I'm just in awe at the way his mind works when it comes to numbers and putting puzzles together and all of that stuff. But he brings so much joy into our family, and I'm so blessed to have him. And then we have Miss Kennedy. She is my 8-year-old daughter, and she is all things creative. She is an artist in her own way, and she brings the flavor. She brings her own little flair, creativity and flair, and she often reminds me of me. And if any of you all know about raising kids, it's challenging when you find yourself raising yourself. And that is raising Kennedy for me. So Kennedy is a joy. Uh, but so this whole concept, when I watch him on a playground, I ask myself, what happened to us as adults? As we grow up, it seems like we lose our spontaneity and freedom. And I love to watch Maddox at play because he looks like he is having the most fun with the least amount of effort and care in the world. And I just admire it. And most times he entertains himself with his own imagination, laughing out loud as if there were an audience in front of him waiting for the next punchline. I mean, that's the way he tends to live life, which is awesome to me. So, but it's just him and his contagious laugh. And at some point in life, I feel like we turn playgrounds into battlefields, and it makes it difficult for us to laugh, to create, to socialize. a desire to meet new friends, collaborate, have fun. It makes it very challenging. And so the core in thinking about a playground, the core of a playground is play and growth. But the core of a battlefield is chaos and death. And it's like, I guess one day, let me go to this. One day when I was observing my children and other children on the playground while I was sitting there, I asked myself, what happened? And at what point did we become so disconnected with the place that allowed us to feel and be so carefree? And my answer that I came up with, or that came upon me, was it's the choices that we make. It's not anything that God created. You know, our struggles are man made. I'll say that again. Our struggles are man made. If you think about it, once we allow ourselves to connect with those things that God created, we actually tend to feel at peace. Things such as pets, you know, the ocean, air, trees, plants, etc. It's not until we make a decision to train the pets to be fighting dogs, pollute the ocean and the air, cut down the trees, kill the plants, that we start to experience dis-ease. We become disconnected from the goodness of God through the things that He created. We even become disconnected from other human beings, often due to the poor decisions that they make and the poor decisions that we make. This is where people's egos come in and screws everything up. But we're going to talk about that on another show in terms of egos, because that is a whole show in itself. Talking about the ego, that may be a series. I need to make sure I write that down. But so this disconnection causes us to turn our playground equipment into shields, and we start to hide behind them with the thought of protecting ourselves. We stop laughing due to being overwhelmed with responsibility. We stop collaborating and freely socializing because we become suspicious of people's motives. We stop creating because we don't see how it will profit our pockets. We stop trying to meet new friends because we don't trust people. And therefore, we stop growing. Every action that we make is a choice. And although there are things that happen to us, we still have a choice as to how we take in that experience and how we choose to move forward. You know, we create our own narrative around that thing that happened to us, no matter what that thing is. And people have gone through some horrific things in their life, things that were many times not in their control. But guess what? You still have a choice. The choice is the narrative that you place on that thing. You know, we have made some poor decisions. We've screwed up what God really created us as human beings for, which was just to be in relationship with Him. He wanted us to enjoy the things that He created before us. And He wanted us to be in communion with those things because He knew the value that those things would have to our personal growth. We need to reconcile. There is restoration needed so that we can turn our battlefields back into playgrounds, what I call healing playgrounds. And you may ask, you know, how does this reconciliation happen? So we have to start with identifying things that cause the disconnection in the first place. And I think a lot of times for that to happen, we often need somebody to come in. We struggle when it comes to looking at ourselves and looking at our ugly selves. You know, all of us are human. All of us has uh, done some things wrong, right? All of us got what they call skeletons in the closet. And it, for many of us, the things are so ugly that we don't want to look at them and we don't want anybody else to know about them. But what you have to realize is that it takes those things coming out in order to heal. But you sometimes and often need assistance in the navigation of that. Like you need to have some help in being able to get to those things. And then once you get to them, identify them. And once you identify them, then that is the point where you can start healing. Right. So that's what I mean by the reconciliation that has to come about. Because if you think about it, there was a disconnection, there was a separation, from God. And I'm not going to go into it too deep, but there was this separation due to sin. And there's some reconciliation that had to occur because we're born into that. We come to this earth through our mothers and we're born into this world full of suffering and sin. And we have to reconcile with all of those things that we became involved in order to get back to him, in order to get back in relationship with him, right? So this thing of reconciliation has to happen, and we have to start with, again, identifying the things that cause the disconnection in the first place. We have to take responsibility for our part in the disconnection because, believe it or not, we always have a part to play in it. And we have to start gathering tools, identifying tools, gathering tools that can be used on our journey toward healing. And that path that you take is your healing playground. That path that you take is your healing playground. That healing playground is one that will need to be built and maintained. And it's also a place that evolves and changes as you grow. I know many times when I was a therapist and my clients, we would be doing some healing work and I would be assisting them on their journey. And they would often say, Letitia, can you just tell me what I need to do? Can you just tell me what I need to do so I can do it and so I can stop feeling this way or so I can get to this destination? Because everybody got this destination they're trying to get to when it comes to healing, when really I would tell them, look, you need to have several seats and trust the process. There is no destination. So you are going to run out of gas real quick if you driving around here wandering thinking you are trying to find some point. There is none. Guess why? Guess why? That is not even what I want to say. I want to say, guess what? It's because it's a journey. You have to trust the process in the journey. It's ever evolving. I know in my own healing journey, I'm still growing. And we don't stop until our last breath. Why? Because we're humans. We're forever changing. We're forever evolving. We're forever having these different experiences, things that happen to us and around us. And so we always have to be learning what tools we need for what season we need it in, right? And so it's always about learning and gathering and studying. That's what we do. That's growth, right? So you just have to learn based on what season you're in, what tools you need, and you have to make sure that your toolbox has enough tools in it to compensate for all those seasons. That is what your mission is. And that is what I would tell my clients. Trust the process. That's what we have to do. So, The healing playground, again, is one that will need to be built and maintained. And it's ever evolving, and the tools change as you change. And we need different things, again, based on the path that we're on and the season that we're in life. And this podcast was created to provide you with a space to turn to help you gain the tools that you need for your healing playground, the path that you create for your journey towards wellness. And so I wanted to kind of give an example, and I wanted to share what my healing playground looks like. When it comes to, healing and restoration, again, it's not a destination. You got to trust the process, and you can't get frustrated about the idea of time. That's the other thing that I had to continue to tell my clients. Like the concept of time, you get so caught up in deadlines. We get caught up a lot in time in this world. And I think that can trip us up because we think that we only have this limited amount of time, which is true. We're human. We're decaying by the seconds. Okay. It just is what it is, y'all. But that doesn't mean we have to live in that way, right? We can't allow the things of the world to dictate how we operate. Right? So yes, there's time, and yes, we're human. And yes, we're living here on this earth where time is considered. We got to be at work on time. There's deadlines there that we have to make, yes. But what we have to realize is that we can't allow the way the world sees time that's going to dictate time when it comes to our own healing. Do you understand? Though the time that we use in terms of deadlines is very different than the time that we put on our own healing journeys, right? It should be. And so we can't get frustrated because we have to take time out. And what I mean when I say that is I've learned this on my own journey because I used to get frustrated too. I'm like, when is this doggone thorn on my side going to be pulled out, please? Or am I going to have to live with this thing forever? But you know what I had to do? I had to surrender. I had to surrender, and I had to say to myself, you know what, Letitia? What if it is? What if it is something that's going to be in your side forever? And what? What are you going to do with it? And I told myself, you know what? I'm going to make the best of what God has given me, including this thorn. And that's what I did. That's why I continue to be a therapist through depression. I continue to help heal people. As I was healing, I continue to help people who were suffering. As I was suffering, I continue to create spaces for healing as I am healing. We don't just quit just because things aren't happening when we want it to happen. That's not growth. You can't heal in that. You can't reconcile like that. All right. So trust the process. It's something definitely that I had to learn. And I also learned I can't survive without God. I just can't. The Christ-centered life that I live has helped me in changing the narrative of the things that have happened in my life. That has been my constant. And narratives is also something that we will have to expand on a future episode because narratives has a lot to do with the way that we feel and the way that we behave. The narratives that we play, the narratives that we write, and the narratives that we play, the records that we play in our mind have a lot to do with how we feel and how we interact with other people and ourselves. And so the stories that we tell ourselves have a large part to do in our decisions and our emotions and our mental and physical and spiritual health. So I want to go over again some of my tools, and I'm going to just name a few to give you an idea of what I mean when I'm talking about this whole concept of healing playground, because that is what we're going to often be going back to on this podcast. And so let's get started. So one of the things is God. That's my first and foremost tool that I go to, and that's the tool that I use. And my relationship with God is at the forefront of my journey. I make it a priority to spend time with Him, and reading and studying, discovering more about Him. God is the one being in my life that doesn't change, and that is so important to me as a human being who is constantly changing. It is also important because we live in a world that is constantly changing. This is what I learned. You have to seek out a higher power in your life for true healing to occur. Because without it, you will get to a point where nothing seems sustainable. This feeling it will make you want to give up on yourself, give up on your life. If you don't have anything that's constant to hold on to, you are going to feel like you are insane. And be honest with you, I think sometimes that's what happens when we start to spin out of control in terms of what's going on with our mental and emotional selves. Those two entities within us are spinning out of control so much because there's so many moving pieces in our lives and the things that's going on around us, the things that we're watching, social media, our friends, the music we listen to, the things that we read, all the things that we take in. You know, it's constantly changing. It's constantly something different, and it's hard to grapple with one thing. And so we tend to spin out of control, and then we feel like we don't want to be here anymore. We tired. And it's not until you can go to that constant thing that you can sit down and have that thing surrender and be still. And that is why I say your number one priority should be God and higher power. Find it, because that is the only constant you're going to find here as you are living on this earth. All right. So that's my number one healing tool. My number two, yoga. This does not only include the exercise of yoga, which is called asana. When I talk about yoga as a tool of my healing playground, I'm talking about yoga as a philosophy, a way of living. Like yoga, and people get so caught up, especially Christians, they get so caught up on the word yoga when they hear it because all they're thinking about is Hinduism and something like that, or some other, they'll say religion, when really they don't know what they're talking about, and they're talking out of ignorance. And a lot of times we need to stop talking so much and we need to start listening, because all yoga means, the definition of yoga is unity. And when it talks about unity in terms of the yoga philosophy, it's just a way of living. It's a way of living in mind, body, and spirit. It's the integration of those three things. Living it out on an everyday basis, how to go about doing that. Yoga teaches you different tools to utilize for the integration of your nature as a human being. That is what yoga is. And it teaches you that in different ways. And so when I say yoga is a tool for me, it's the philosophy of it. It's the way of living, and that integration of mind, body, and spirit. And the tools within yoga that I've used are the physical practices, the meditation, the breathing exercises, the somatic practices. And what I mean by somatic, which I'll be talking about more on this podcast, is where I intentionally spend time connecting with my body. And I'm very, mindful activities such as mindful walking and mindful eating at times, but being more intentional in everyday life and my interactions with myself and other people. That's yoga. And that is another tool on my healing playground. Another one is journaling. And I'm going to tell you, for those of us, me included, because I use both. I do journaling from my phone. Sometimes I use the voice recording on my phone. I'll write notes on my phone, but I suggest you still keep paper and pen. And I'm going to tell you why. There is something that happens within the brain when you have an actual pen and you allow it to hit paper and you actually write you actually write words like we used to do so long ago. It seems like so long ago, right? Technology has totally taken over. It's a great thing, but Lord have mercy. I mean, we have to use it more mindfully. However, what I was saying, the pen and the paper. So I'm really quick to tell a story about Kennedy and her kindergarten teacher. So Kennedy, when she was in kindergarten, her teacher would send these lovely things home that we could do as parents to assist her in her academic growth. And so one of those activities I remember clearly was taking chalk. This is a time when she was learning sight words. We would take chalk and we would take a piece of construction paper and we would have her write her sight words with chalk on the construction paper. And I asked the teacher, I said, what does this do? And teacher told me and explained to me that it it causes them to better memorize the words just by the way the chalk, they feel the chalk on the texture of the paper. So it's the two different mediums used. And the brain is reading it in a certain way that it causes it to retain it better with the words. I thought that was so fascinating, y'all. I know some of y'all might like, you didn't know that, Letitia. You know what? No, I didn't. I know now. But that's why I say it's so important to still use that paper and pen. It triggers another part of our brain. And we have to be so much more mindful, especially as we're aging, to utilize our brain as much as possible. Right. And so if we're journaling, using all the forms of journaling, it is awesome. So journaling is another tool on my journey. Spending time with friends is always important. You all, the body actually responds to hugs, even when you don't want them. The body needs it. And I try to tell myself, because I'm going to tell you the truth. Everybody that knows me or that somebody that's close to me, they know that I'm not a huge fan of the physical touch. Just never have been, y'all. I struggle with intimacy. I'm not afraid to say that. Hopefully they help somebody else. So it has been a part of my healing journey though. But I know that touch is important. Our bodies actually need it. Just like our bodies need sunlight for vitamin D, it needs touch from human beings. It responds in a way that is healthy for us. And so spending time with friends and conversations, spending time with people is healthy, right? It's got to be a part of our wellness journey. We cannot isolate. Isolation is not our friend. And there's a difference between isolation and spending time alone. Okay? That's another podcast. But there is a difference. And so we want to make sure, and then there are times when you need to spend time alone because you need to be in stillness, because there's a lot that God wants to impart on you in terms of giving you direction. And a lot of times God responds to us in whispers, and we can't hear him when there's a lot of noise around us. So we have to be alone in devotion, right? And we have to make sure we take that time. And so that is the difference. That's what you're doing. Even in that alone time, you're being productive in that stillness. But when you're isolating, it's no productivity in that. You're just trying to get away. You're trying to hide. No growth can happen there. Okay. All right. Something else I do, I create art. I love creating. I'm an artist. I love to draw. I love to paint. I love to create, make jewelry. I love to do it all, y'all. I love working with my hands. So creating art. So anybody that has a hobby, get into your hobbies, y'all. Make time for your hobbies. Those are gonna be important coping tools. And find people that kind of have the similar interests, so y'all can get together sometime and share hobbies. Do it together. It's some healing in that. It's healing that happens in that, and it's a good coping tool. So that's another one of my tools. Another one is exercise, exercising my body. And I'm going to be talking a lot about the body on this podcast because I think something that has happened, particularly in religion, is that we often talk about the spirit and we often talk about the soul. But what happened to the body, y'all? There was a disconnect, and therefore we treat it wrong. We don't take care of our bodies. And so I make it a point to take care of my body and to exercise it, and to go even when I feel like I get to a point where I'm not eating the way I'm supposed to. I know I'm intentional about listening and getting back on track. So exercising my body is important. Also taking time out for myself. As I said earlier, I have two children. I have a whole husband, and sometimes that can be a lot, along with work and some other things. But it is so important for me to take time out for myself and do some of the things that I just want to do. And so taking time out for myself is definitely another healing tool for me, because I like me. I like being with me. I think I'm pretty cool. I I used to say if I wasn't me, I would be my best friend. Hey, yeah, I still feel that way. Anyway, playing games. I like playing games, y'all. That's another little tool in my journey. And then y'all, finally, this is what I learned, and I'm still learning this, y'all. And that's why I said my son is really teaching me a lot about this. But finding a way to laugh, you have to be willing to explore fun. Really, like, we gotta laugh. Laughing is so important, and I can't say enough about it. The laughing is therapeutic within itself. It does so much to the body, and it adds so much health to our body and our bodies. And so, please find a way to laugh several times a day if you can. Um, and so those are some tools that I use. Now, there are certain ingredients that are required that just grow over time, but you have to be willing to start the journey. Um, these are things that I have learned that are definitely a requirement to take yourself through the journey. And so it's definitely needed on your playground. But these things that I'm about to tell you now are a few things that add to your character, the character of a person. And so, like I said, when you're character building, that takes time. But these things are definitely needed as it relates to your healing playground. If you don't have it in your character, I suggest that you go on a mission of character building, because this is needed. And I'm still working on these things, y'all. It's evolving. I'm growing though. My capacity is expanding. So discipline, you all, discipline. You not gonna make it if you don't have discipline. I can't say more about it. Um, Discipline is important on this healing journey. You have to be able to get yourself to a point where you're able to do the thing over and over again. And that takes discipline. Next, curiosity. Curiosity. So through play, we can experience emotional, social, physical growth. And curiosity is like free play. Like, it can help us develop essential life skills such as tolerance, spontaneity, humor, wisdom, right? Curiosity does all of this. These things are very important on the healing playground. And so, four things that curiosity does: it makes your mind active instead of passive. Uh, it makes your mind observant of new ideas. It makes your mind, um, it makes you open. It opens your world up to new possibilities and it brings excitement into your life, right? And so the person might say, well, how do I build curiosity? Well, a few ways. Start seeing learning as fun. One, start seeing learning as fun. Number two, read diverse types of readings, and engage with people and things that you wouldn't normally engage with. You'll be surprised. I've done it, y'all. And I actually am starting to like it. At first, it was a struggle interacting with people that I would normally interact with. A lot of people don't look anything like me. But oh my goodness, I have been missing out because um, in my curiosity, I've made some friendships that are awesome. I've made some connections. God has been really working. And it is amazing. And it would have never happened had I not been curious and had I not been obedient as well. So, also, don't label things as boring. See things as a door to an exciting world where anything can be observed and found. Okay. Also, I love this about Maddox. Ask questions relentlessly. Yes, ask questions relentlessly. Keep an open mind. You always want to be open to learn, unlearn, and relearn. Okay? I had to learn that too. But be prepared to accept the possibility that you are wrong and be willing to change your mind. And lastly, don't take things for granted. Don't take things for granted, y'all. So, those are some ways that you can build curiosity. Another thing you're going to need on this journey that I struggle praying for now, but I know we need it. Patience. Patience is something else, y'all, because this thing is not going to happen overnight. This healing, your toolbox is not going to fill up overnight, okay? The playground is all not going to be created overnight. It takes time, all right? Um, We need compassion. Compassion is another thing that I found that I need, that I'm building, continuing to build in my character. There has to be some concern for the misfortune and suffering of ourselves and those around us. People are hurting, and I know we've heard hurt people hurt people. But once we understand that concept, we can stop talking. I'm sorry, I said talking. Stop taking things so personal and be able to extend some grace. And y'all, oh my gosh, grace, grace. That's a whole nother podcast. Uh, a whole nother episode on the podcast. But you offering yourselves and others grace, just showing kindness and compassion, even when we or other people don't deserve it, is important in this healing journey because we can be so self-critical. So anyway, y'all, that's a glimpse of some of the equipment and tools that I have built and that I use on my healing playground. There are things under each of those categories that I use, which will be revealed through this podcast. But I just wanted to give you an idea of what this concept of a healing playground is all about. And on my playground, you heard eating, you heard praying, you heard loving, and through all of this is healing. The important thing is that we repeat these things over and over and over again every day in a different way. This is how we continue to heal and become our most optimal selves and the living out our most optimal lives while we are here on this earth. So y'all, that gives you an idea of what the healing playground is all about. And my call to action for you is, what equipment do you have on your healing playground? Have you even sat down and tried to think about what the design of that playground needs to look like? Have you even sat down and looked at, how am I going to even create the blueprint for this playground? Where do I need to start? So those are some things you want to reflect on and ask yourself as you're going in this journey. But I'm gonna be here right along with you for now until I'm led to go somewhere else or do something else. I'm here. I'm gonna be here. We're gonna be giving you tools on this journey. Be well and give yourself time, y'all. Don't cut yourself short. Just trust me when I say, give yourselves some time. So, y'all, let's go to our inspirational quote. That was my little drum roll. I know that wasn't that great. Y'all, remember to subscribe. I'm going to read this quote, but remember to subscribe, y'all. Because we got to start building out here. And don't keep this to yourself. Tell other people about this podcast. Eat, pray, love, heal, repeat. Tell them about it. Share it. All right, here we go. Inspirational quote. A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it isn't open. A mind is like a parachute. It doesn't work if it isn't open. Ain't that the truth? All right, y'all. This healing playground is closed for now, but continue working on the design of your own. And remember, outside of laughter, you need to eat, pray, love, heal, and repeat it all over again.